Get a £5 free bet every week with Offer Club from William Hill. Simply stake a total of £20 or more across the week on pre-match football accumulators with 4 or more selections, and you'll get a £5 free bet on the Friday. Join William Hill Offer Club on mobile or online now.
James Holder, IFL TV, in association with Macklin's Gym Bar. We're at the weigh-in today. Anthony CROLLA v Jorge Linares, and sporting a Jorge Linares style beard, Mr. Eddie Hearn.
Yes,
how are
but not from with the Venezuelan swag, like more of a sort of fat Romford swag.
Looks alright, mate. This is
so.
hiding a few
Basically,
chins.
yeah, this is true. Mate, so hold on. I wish people could see that look now when you just lean back there. Like,
Listen, I'm not going to look like that
no,
anymore.
it's I'm rolling with it for a few days. See how we get on.
Let's talk about Anthony CROLLA, Jorge Linares. You saw the relief and passion on Anthony when he was on the stage, becoming a bit of a tradition. Talk to me about this fight.
It's a wonderful fight. You know, you always look at the opponents during fight week. You know, we had the thing the other week with Golovkin. You know, he looks a bit ill, he looks a bit drawn, and he did. You know, didn't really mean anything on fight night. In the end, he was victorious. Linares looked the opposite. Looked really well. In body, in face, in eyes, in personality, seemed alive on the scales, as did Anthony. No problem, as always, for Anthony making the weight. He's in great shape. I just think you've got two of the best lightweights, or the best two lightweights in the world, both in the shape of their lives. And I think you're going to get nothing else but a fight of the year contender tomorrow night, and an atmosphere of definitely of the year contender, but maybe an atmosphere of a long time contender tomorrow night.
Do you think it'll catch fire early, this fight? Or do
I think so, yeah, because
a tactical affair? How do you see it playing out?
because Anthony's, you look at Anthony's style, he tends to soak up a lot in the early rounds, and I don't think that was, although it was a plan against Barroso, it's also what he does. He's quite a slow starter. I think Linares will be the opposite. I think he'll be a really fast starter. He'll come out with great feet, fast hands, and I think those early rounds are the rounds that Anthony CROLLA has to get through. I think once we get past 5 or 6 rounds, I think you're going to see CROLLA going through the gears, lifting off the crowd, as he did against Perez, as he did against Barroso, and I believe he'll stop Jorge Linares late. But those early rounds are the real danger rounds, in my opinion. Once the power starts to go a little bit from Linares, once he starts to slow down, hopefully CROLLA can work the body, as he always does. And he can be hurt, Linares. He's been knocked out 3 times. Mitchell had him down with not a massive shot, and CROLLA's punching much harder than he used to. Watch that right hand over the top tomorrow night. For me, that's the bingo shot.
Looking at CROLLA at the workout, he looks in fantastic shape. You can see the extra sort of muscles he's put onto his body as well. So would you say he's had probably the best camp he's had so far?
Yeah, he's been like that last three or four fights, and his strength and conditioning coach needs a lot of credit for that. If you look at the pictures of him against Gavin Rees, when he was in prize fighter, he was quite a wiry kid. He was also really a super featherweight at the time. When we moved him to lightweight, it was only because the Reese fight was there. He was thinking about staying at super feather or moving back to super feather, and I think that he's grown into lightweight, and that's why he makes the weight so well. If he was at super feather with that physique, he'd be really struggling. So again, he's in the same kind of shape as the last couple of fights, probably a little bit better, but Linares is in wonderful shape as well. I think Linares looked better on the scales today than he did in the Mitchell fight, and I think he's better prepared for this fight than he was against Mitchell, and I think Anthony CROLLA's going to need a career best performance to unify the division tomorrow night.
If Anthony CROLLA is victorious, will the fight with Terry Flanagan happen at some point in 2017? Is it in your radar?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not going to start bitching about other fighters, but if people can't see the difference in profile between Anthony CROLLA and Terry Flanagan, then they're lying. So no fault of Terry's, but he's just not getting the fights, and not getting the fights of any magnitude and any profile. So once Anthony CROLLA beats Jorge Linares, I think the natural fight is Terry Flanagan, and we'll make them an immediate offer, and I think he'll accept it, because I don't think he has any other options right now. They're talking about going out and taking a fight in the States for small money, and I don't know how much longer Terry's got a lightweight, but Terry is a very, very good fighter, and obviously 2 lads from Manchester, 2 belts, the Ring Magazine belt and the WBO belt. It's an obvious fight to happen, but this is for me the fight that makes CROLLA an international superstar, just like Carl Froch. and I think that's what he's after. You know, he's big in Manchester, and that fight, of course, is huge in Manchester. But from an international point, the amount of international broadcasters we've got covering the fight this week, CROLLA LINARES is a massive fight worldwide, and you know, I can't wait to feel the atmosphere tomorrow night.
I want to talk to you a little bit about Anthony Joshua out on the 26th of November. We've seen rumours that Hughie Fury could potentially be the opponent, with Peter Fury agreeing to let that fight take place. Could you clarify to what's going on with the situation?
Well, he's agreed to let the fight take place, but for outrageous money. Not deep negotiations, really. I spoke to Peter Fury when the Ruiz fight fell through, spoke to Mick Hennessy, talked numbers. I thought the numbers that I was talking were huge, you know, and they didn't. So, you know, they were after more like the money that probably Anthony Joshua will be making from his fight, rather than, you know, probably more like 60-40 split of the pot, which for a voluntary challenger is just not going to happen. So, but I understand that. Look, they're in a good position. They're world ranked. You know, he's got the Fury name. So they're not going to want to dive in to a fight like Anthony Joshua unless they really believe they win. If they did, the money that I'm offering, if they really believe they could beat him and become world champion, they would accept this deal, because, you know, you take opportunities like that for a lot of money. So again, you know, we're miles apart, and right now I would say Joseph Parker is the favourite to meet AJ. You know, we felt about growing that fight, maybe putting him in with Price, but you know, he seems to be the only one really who is turning around and saying yes, being reasonable, being sensible, and trying to make the fight. So I think, all being well against Dimitrenko next week for Parker, it could be AJ v Parker on November 26th.
I want to talk a little bit about matchroom matchmaker Dillian Whyte. He's been on the case trying to get Dave Allen and Sam Sexton on Land of the Giants. What's your initial reaction to that? Is there any legs in that? Yeah,
I mean, you know, there's obviously going to be a heavyweight theme on November 26th. I'm trying to close off Chisora against White for November 26th, which you guys will love for sure. Dave Allen, you know, I'm due to get David Price out on October the 15th. And I said to them, I'd like him to fight Dave Allen. You know, why not? Why not fight Dave Allen instead of fighting a international opponent that no one's heard of? And again, on November 26th, Price might fight in there as well. You know, and I've said I think they should rematch Tony Thompson. I think that's a smart fight. I also like Price against Shannon Briggs. Got to try and speak to them, see what's happening. But you know, people have just got to be prepared. If they believe in themselves, they've got to be prepared to take the fights, and that's really the fighters that I want to work with. You know, and I'm not saying we have to be gung-ho and just make ridiculous fights, but there's got to be an understanding that if fights make sense and you believe you can win, you've got to take them. Of course the money's got to be right. You know, I'm not expecting anyone just to roll over and let me tickle their belly and give them short money, but you know, the money that we're offering these guys to fight Anthony Joshua, you know, maybe I got it all wrong, but this is life-changing money, and more importantly, a life-changing opportunity to become world heavyweight champion. If you believe you can do it, you have to take these fights, and I think that's the problem. I think there's too many people that feel they can't beat Anthony Joshua, so you have to come up with a number that makes it worthwhile.
We've seen Tommy Langford and Chris Eubank Jr. not going to happen. Eubank pulled out with believed to be a tennis elbow injury. I know you spoke to my Sri Lankan colleague Coogan about this, but will you be working with the Eubanks going forward?
I don't know. I never, you know, I said to Coogan, I'll never say never. I never say that I'll never work with the Eubanks again, because who knows if they start getting smart, if they start understanding the business again. And again, James, it's not a case of people just rolling over and saying, yes, Eddie, we'll do whatever you say. But you've got to listen to guidance, and you've got to, for me, I think I'm getting a decent track record of making fighters a lot of money and making big fights. So whether you like me or not, you've got to listen to me a little bit. You know, I mean, you've got Chris Eubank Jr. who, you know, criticised Kell Brook in a corner saying he doesn't own towels, and then he pulls out of a fight with tennis elbow. Doesn't look great, does it? You know, and but he's a good fighter, and if he listens, and if someone in their team gets smart, quick, they'll be okay. If they don't, they're Donald Ducked. And but there's probably always someone that will work with them, because there's always a desperate man in the business. So, but we're not desperate people, and you know, you look at even you know, my good friend Frank Warren. listen to his interview, and very unoften do you actually say spot on, and he is as well. And he's been around the sport a long time. He can't be bothered to do it, and I can't. And although my my temper's probably a lot harder to get out than his because I haven't been doing it as long, I can't be bothered either. I'd rather work with people that put a smile on my face, and when they're in the ring, I actually feel my heart pumping and my brow sweating, and I want them to win so badly. That's the beauty of sport. Not really thinking someone walks out and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, look at these, and that's how it gets sometimes. Your stress levels and go through the roof, and EUBANK will say, well, that's because we're worth it. We're worth the stress levels, and the answer is no one is, unless you're a desperate man. And it will take someone who really needs Chris EUBANK Jr. to suffer how they are unless they change. And I would think Junior seems smart enough to just sort of have a look at what's happening right now and say, hang on a minute, Dad, should we start thinking a bit smarter here before it's all too late? And Langford, I thought Langford was a good fight for him. Frank paid a lot of money at the purse bids, but I don't think I think he felt like he was going to be messed around, and I don't, But I think Agogo's going to fight Langford now apparently, which is
the fact that Nathaniel Wilson was included on the bill, and who knows, could have been on the top table.
I think that was just
that's played any part in it.
That's camera. That's a move by Frank. Just do a little wind up. I probably didn't go down very well, and listen, that might be one of the reasons why. But you can't blame Frank for that, because I'm sure when you win a purse bid, all the demands go out the window. So I dread to think the hotel they would have been put in Cardiff, but you have no rights.
Led to believe though they missed, I think, 4
dates that requested.
According to the
well, nothing changes,
press
does it?
report.
Nothing changes.
Any legs in Liam Smith v Kell Brook?
Not at the moment, no. We're looking at Cotto, Canelo, or Khan.
For Smith?
Sorry?
For
Kell, yeah.
Sorry.
I said to Coogan yesterday, if we get to a stage where those fights don't happen, maybe the Liam Smith fight, but my instructions from Kell is make me the biggest fights you can in boxing. So Liam's not one of those at the moment. He did brilliantly well against Canelo, and maybe in the future that fight can happen.
What about AMIR Khan?
Can you
be bothered to go back onto that saga
again? Yeah, of course I can be bothered, because I want it, and it's a lot of money. So, AMIR Khan's not Chris EUBANK Jr. and Senior. I hope that we can have a proper conversation with Team Khan and just say, look, surely we have to sit in a room and look at the money that is available for this fight and make it happen. But maybe not. But still the number one fight that I want to make. Cotto, I think, is a great fight for Kell Brook as well. I had a couple of chats with BoxNation and say, we're ready for that fight. Kell's gone into an operation. I think he's just come out of the theatre now. Had a small operation on his eye socket. Not going to be able to spar for 10 or 11 weeks. So, we're looking at a spring return.
Listen, some big fights to be made. Wish Anthony CROLLA the best of luck against LINARES. I'm excited about that fight. It's good to see him getting it on. And thank you from Twilight TV.
Cheers, mate.
Get a £5 free bet every week with Offer Club from William Hill. Simply stake a total of £20 or more across the week on pre-match football accumulators with 4 or more selections, and you'll get a £5 free bet on the Friday. Join William Hill Offer Club on mobile or online now.